Pronto, Vincenza.
Pronto, Randy, and welcome everyone. We're so glad to be back. We had a little break, didn't we?
Yes, a long break.
A long break, but welcome everyone tuning in to our Pronto podcast. We're on episode 5, and today is October 10th. Can you believe we're in October already?
No, I can't.
I know that the seasons are flying by, the months are flying by. Before you know it, we will be in 2023.
Yeah.
Well, so how was your weekend, Randy? I know that you are obviously, I've been busy because you follow everything I'm doing.
Really?
But how have you been? What's new?
Really,
what's going on?
The weather this weekend was really nice. So I got out and enjoyed it, took many walks, and I really enjoyed the pageant, pictures from the pageant.
Yes. For those of you that don't know, my title holders, Miss Delaware USA 2022, Grace Lang, and Miss Delaware Teen USA 2022, Ava McMurray, competed for the Super Bowl of all pageants, the Miss USA and Miss Teen USA competition in Reno, Nevada last week. And they worked so hard and prepared for so long for the national competition. And there's some photos.
Wow.
Oh, this is so great. Yeah, they did such a phenomenal job. I was so incredibly proud of them every step of the way, even before they arrived. Just their preparation alone and their dedication to preparing themselves, because a lot goes into it. It's not just, putting, makeup on and hairspraying your hair. There's far more work that goes into preparing for a competition. And they did such an incredible job preparing for it. And I really do respect that of both of them, because they understood the assignment. Let's just say they understood the assignment. They understood the commitment. And that's really, really important when you apply for the job of a title holder. So you have to understand the commitment that goes into it.
They're competing with like 52 other girls?
51. Yeah, well, they're 51 total. They compete in their respective divisions. So they did a phenomenal job. There were 3 phases of competition: evening gown, the fitness and swimsuit competition, and then the private interview. But there was a newer addition. It wasn't judged, but it was another part of the experience of competing at the Miss USA and Miss Teen USA competition was the state costume. So that was really, really nice. They both selected a costume of their choice that represented their state and themselves. And I thought that was really, really important. And when I was helping them come to the conclusion of what they wanted to represent, that had to represent their personality.
Yeah.
And I think that's super, super important across the board in their entire wardrobe and how they present themselves when they go off to the national competition.
I think they nailed it, because, both of them were completely different, but, representing the state, and it was really good.
Well, and thanks to you again and your team for supporting both of them. If you don't know, Curry Hair, Skin, and Nails has become an official sponsor of the Miss Delaware USA, Miss Delaware Teen USA organization. So we're very, very fortunate to have you on our team. Ava McMurray had her hair maintained and fixed up and well taken care of by you, your team, and Brandon. We were very, very excited to have all of you on board, making sure that her hair looked phenomenal. And it did.
Yeah.
It did. And then also, yes. And also we had Grace. She was able to take advantage of some of your services at the salon. So you have more than just hair care at your salons, which I always like to stress to people. You have beyond that: skin care, hair care, nail care. So there was so many services, but we were very, very fortunate that both of the title holders had the opportunity to take advantage of all of the services that you offered. So thank you.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. It was, nice to see the girls, on the pageant and in the state costumes and all the gowns, and they're beautiful.
Yes, really. Yes. It's for me, it's so rewarding to see an individual, young lady, win her respective state title and work so diligently and hard for the national competition. But I always say it's about the journey versus the destination. Yeah. And I love seeing the growth I love seeing how they learn and they grow and they develop to the woman that they are today. And I've had the opportunity to witness many title holders grow and blossom into the women that they are today, because it is character building, it is a confidence building, but also the sisterhood.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always like to share with others, that it's more than just looking pretty. It is more, it's not even that, actually, because we're all beautiful in our own skin. It's how you feel. It's how you present yourself, and that confidence.
Yeah.
That is something that you can't put a price tag on that. But I always say that it's about the journey versus the destination.
Yeah.
So I know
Is
it was a great experience.
is it sad for you when like they have to step down and a new person takes over?
Yes, well, we always like to say it's bittersweet,
Yeah.
because it's sad that they have to crown a new title holder, but at the same time, it's it's okay. It's okay, because it's time for them to move on to the next chapter in their life.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole purpose of competing for the title of Miss Delaware USA, Miss Delaware Teen USA is all about. That it's just a moment in your life that you were blessed with,
Right.
because it is a blessing. You took a chance, you were taking a risk, you stepped out of your comfort zone, and you were blessed with this opportunity to really, really shine. And I always say this to every single new title holder that wins their respective state: it's what you make of the title. So just keep that in mind. It's not like everything's going to be handed to you, or you're going to have everything brought to you, or everything will just happen easily. It's what you make of it. And yes, the work doesn't end. The work just begins as soon as the crown hits your head. But again, it's important that every title holder knows that it's just one moment in your life that you're able to learn, grow, but it's only the beginning. It's just, again, it's a very, very, I have to say my experience as Miss Delaware USA was incredible, because it was such a memorable time in my life. But I always look back and realize, wow, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't probably be here. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet you, or have the opportunity to be a host on Good Morning Wilmington, or have the opportunity to be featured in commercials, TV commercials, modeling gigs. It just opportunity after opportunity. It's helped me develop into the person that I am today. And I truly believe that's what the title offers so many young women.
They're lucky to have you as a coach.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I don't consider myself the coach. I always like to say I'm more of a mentor. I'm more of a mentor, but yes, I'm coaching them through everything that you have to go through, but I'm more of a mentor. And I love that I have the ability to empower women on a much larger scale now with the title of being the executive state director of Delaware. So it's truly rewarding. I really do appreciate it. And I'm grateful for it every single day. I really am, because you never know what tomorrow brings, but I am grateful for it every single day.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, now we're enough of pageant talk. We need to dive into why we are also here, because we have a phenomenal guest that will be tuning in. Actually, he's waiting for us, so he'll be joining us very, very quickly. So I'm so excited to introduce our guest. And I've had the opportunity to know our guest. Randy, I know this might be your first time. Yeah, first time meeting our guest for today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest today is Dennis Carradin. Dennis is a licensed professional counselor of mental health and a nationally certified counselor and board certified expert in traumatic stress, and a diplomat for the American Academy of Experts in Traumatic Stress. Currently, he is the executive director of New Perspectives Incorporated, a private counseling agency in Delaware, and served on the faculty of Penn State University Brandywine campus for 15 years. He is a vice president and principal consultant for the SSC Consulting. Dennis is a trained trainer for Crisis Care Network. He is the president and CEO of the Trauma Survivors Foundation and serves on 3 international trauma firms. Dennis is a former nationally registered emergency medical technician and a former emergency medical technician with the state of Delaware. He is also a former firefighter. So there's so much more that Dennis does, and what an impressive resume. But without further ado, let's welcome Dennis Carradin.
Oh, that guy sounds impressive on paper. That is actually an amazing sounding person. My kids think I'm
Mhm.
a dork, so I don't know. So
Well,
thank you.
I for those of you who are just tuning in, I've had the pleasure of knowing Dennis for a few years now, and we met. And I'll share the story real quick, Dennis. Please, I have to make sure everybody takes note because it does connect. So I had the opportunity to connect with Dennis during the pandemic, and it was the height of the pandemic. And Dennis, through everything he was doing, he I guess you would say founded the foundation called Hospital Heroes, and he connected with me at the bistro, and we were able to partner together and making sure we were feeding our healthcare workers throughout the tri-state area. So again, that was the
Wow.
quick story. I mean, there was more to it, but that was the quick story that we were able to come together for such a great cause. And ever since then, right, Dennis,
Right,
you
right.
can't get rid of me now.
It's the story of a lifetime, right?
But again, I have to always share with everyone that's tuning in. We have the privilege of really meeting some great people and having some really wonderful people on the show. But Dennis, let's talk about you some more.
What they say, my
Let's
my my first and foremost best subject is me, right? Never
right,
change.
right. Well, let's break it down a little bit. So let's talk about the Trauma Survivors Foundation. Why don't you share with our viewers about, or excuse me, listeners about what it is and its mission?
Sure. We're actually at our 10th year of the Trauma Survivors Foundation. So we provide all the resources, education, and training necessary for people involved in a traumatic event. So more recently, if you look at Hurricane Ian or Hurricane Ian, I forget what people are calling it, but it's Hurricane Ian. We have some of our trained therapists in our network, boots on the ground in Florida right now, providing which unfortunately is more palliative care right now versus clinical care. And palliative care is more or less making sure that they have shelter, food, they're moving in the right direction to get people safe.
Mm,
There were areas of Florida that were just completely devastated. So we are we're based here in Delaware. Everything starts here in Delaware. But we have providers in 41 different states. There's about 2,500 of us, give or take, that are trained therapists or trained first responders in crisis intervention, and we go out when the need arises. And as Jenza said, during COVID, we started, or we at least developed, a new program, the Hospital Heroes Food Drive, that came out of a necessity. I think everything that we do, starts with an idea, but we come out in a necessity. When we started roughly 10 years ago, we came out of the necessity after the Sandy Hook shooting. So
mm,
the
Wow.
elementary shooting, when I responded up there, I was at the shooting, providing comfort and care to EMS and fire and police, and we started working with the families of the victims and the survivors. And what we found out was, well, we rush in for about a month, and we're there, and we help out, and we do what we can, and make sure people have the right direction, make sure people are receiving care. But typically we leave, and then that
mm,
leaves people with kind of this emotional wasteland almost. And that's kind of a harsh term, but
mhm,
it's they don't have the proper guidance as to where to go to get extra help, where they can reach out to people. So long story short, but I love telling the story. I was made to go to Hartford, Connecticut, to work with a company that most of the parents from Sandy Hook had worked. And when I was going out there, I stopped at a Dunkin' Donuts. It was this random Dunkin' Donuts in Danbury, Connecticut. And when I walked in, I was dressed in a suit and tie, very professional. And I forgot, or at least in my mind, at 6 o'clock in the morning before the coffee, little bleary eyed, and I looked like a reporter. No offense to any reporter in the world, but I looked like one of the hordes of reporters that were up in the Connecticut area. And so I stopped at this Dunkin' Donuts, and the girl behind the counter was a co-ed, probably my daughter's age, who's a 21-year-old Penn State student. And as I started speaking to her, I just went in. I said, "Hey, how's your day? I'd like a black coffee." And all of a sudden, tears just started coming down her eyes. And I initially thought I did something wrong by asking for a cup of coffee, but I figured that's what I was here for. And the manager ran over. I thought the manager was gonna beat me up at that point, and I was like, "Look, I don't know what happened here." And the manager said she's having a really hard day, and I said,
Mhm.
"Okay." I said, "Look, I'm not a reporter. I'm actually a trauma therapist up here to help with everybody. What's going on?" And I found out that her nephew was one of the little boys murdered at
Mm.
the elementary school, and I thought, "Oh my god, we gotta do something here." So I
Right.
spoke to her for about 30 minutes, found out she was a college co-ed, she was in college, she was underinsured, so she didn't have the wherewithal to go see a therapist afterwards, and she had only been to, like, a group session maybe once and didn't feel any relief.
Mm.
So, I actually hooked her up with a colleague that lived in that area. Out of my own pocket, I paid for her counseling for her, and that's where it started. And then since then, we've developed it a 5 model or a 5-session model where folks that are involved in these tragedies can see one of our trained therapists for 5 sessions, either for free or
Mm.
we pay for their co-pays for their insurance.
Wow.
Wow, wow. And again, for our viewers and our listeners that are tuning in, we even though that Randy and I want to mention this, Dennis, so give me a moment, because even though Randy and I talk about all things beauty, we also talk about the importance of mental health.
Right.
And that's really, really important. And Dennis has actually played a significant role in my life as far as mental health awareness. And I know that if I ever needed or help or I had a question or I know I needed to advise someone, I know that I can go to Dennis for that
Wow.
because he is a mental health specialist. But I'm a firm believer in mental health awareness and even having the conversation about the importance of it and providing the resources and education. And that's more the reason why we wanted Dennis on the show. Because not it's yes, it's great being beautiful and feeling, but what do we talk about? Feeling beautiful and feeling good with from within is far more important, and that stems from your mental health.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I appreciate that you telling us and sharing us that story with us, and I'm sure there are many other stories that you encounter
Too many, too
daily,
many. Yeah,
daily, and
absolutely.
it's just proof that we need you, Dennis. We need many others that are focusing on mental health. So that leads me to my next question. What is the importance of mental health in today's society?
Well, it's paramount to who we are, right? Look,
Mm.
you can go in and I firmly believe in both internal and external beauty, right? And feeling good and being good to yourself has a twofold process. You're not going to question, and I always, I say this to even patients of mine, you're not going to question whether you broke a bone and you should get it fixed. You never
Mm.
question that. If
Right.
your arm's kind of dangling in the wrong direction, you're probably going to go to the ER. You're going to get
Mhm.
yourself fixed. Every
Right.
morning when you wake up, for the most part, every morning people are going to brush their teeth, they're going to comb their hair, and they're going to try to put on or at least a presentation that they look good. But internally, if you're not feeling good about yourself, nothing else is going to work. But yet we question that. We question that as a society. We
Mhm.
question whether or not we should take care of our mental self. We question whether or not we should see a therapist. I mean, believe it or not, there's still this huge stigma that if you go to a shrink like me, then there's something must be completely wrong with you. And
Mhm.
that's not the case. My
Mhm.
practice is a little unique. I see primarily healthcare folks. I see police, fire, ambulance, professional people. But in that realm, that stigma is probably the highest. Like,
Mhm.
the our superheroes won't allow that chink in the harbor in the armor sometimes. And by telling them, like, look, it's okay not to be okay, but it's
Mhm.
also okay to talk about why you're not okay, becomes one of our biggest standpoints of getting them through the door. And let's face it,
Yes.
80% of the battles won when you make that almost acknowledgement that something's wrong,
Mm.
And
Very, very, very true.
well, and I could get on I mean, if you have 12 hours, I'll get on my soapbox about mental health. But it's truthfully one of those things that, we wake up in the morning and we fail to tell ourselves simple things, right?
Right.
So years ago, I think when, I used to ride Tyrannosaurus Rexes to school, and what have you back, I've been in practice 26 years, so it's been a while since I've been in school. And one of my mentors had always said, "What's your mantra?" And I never
Mhm.
had one. I never, what do you mean? And he would say, when you wake up in the morning, what do you tell yourself? And I said, outside of thank God I'm awake. I mean, what do you mean? And he would say, no, you got to give yourself a mantra. And
Mhm.
so I started practicing a mantra every morning. And you have your little routine. Like I go in and a year now I've had a beard. That I love my little my headshot without the beard. Now I'm all fuzzy. But I got my little routine in the morning and whatever. And as I'm getting prepared, I tell myself, do a great job today and earn what you deserve. And
Mm.
that's my mantra every morning.
It's a good
So
mantra.
Right.
if you start with a mantra, whatever your personal mantra is, it could be I'm good enough, people love me, I'm going to be a great talk show host today, or whatever it is, and you have a mantra, then you're doing something positive. Your voice is the first positive thought that you're having throughout that day. Now, your day could suck, your day could be horrible, but
Right.
yet you have that first positive thing. I would also say, and I throw it in every morning, make your bed. You know,
Ah,
you when
it's
you
a good
get
one.
home, you've told yourself something very positive.
Mhm.
You started your day positively. You get home, you're tired, you're whatever, your bed's made. So you got 2 very positive mental health things that you could do for yourself, but yet we fail to do it, and
Mhm.
that astonishes me most of the time.
I'm really glad that you said that because it's an easy thing to
Yeah,
do. Do your bed. The
Right.
yeah,
moment you wake up, the first thing you do is turn around, do your bed. Actually, I do that and I believe in that. So I'm
that's
glad
right.
that you said that
Yeah.
because my mom always taught me that, make sure when you get up, the first thing you do is do your bed because when you come back to your bed, it's done and you can start over. It's like starting fresh, starting over. Like it's coming back where it's put together. It's just, every way you can look at it. But I do agree with that piece of advice. So thank you for sharing that because it is so simple.
Yeah. And it makes you feel successful
Hmm.
right then and there.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
right, right. So I have to just bring it back just a little bit more, Dennis, because I know that I was able to share with our viewers about your resume and well, it's a little bit of your resume. I'm sure the resume is endless, but I would love to find out, and I actually may know the answer to this, but I
Right.
want everyone else to understand why and or what led you into pursuing this avenue and career path in your life.
Oh god. Yeah, this started back, being part of, and I do look at my roots with that. Being a part of the Italian American community in Wilmington never hurt. That was one of the things where you're almost bred into a life of service, right? And part of me growing up when I'm asked this question, I used to remember, and I went to, and I'll say the name. I went to St. Elizabeth's grade school and high school, and we used to get these little UNICEF boxes, if any of us old heads remember the UNICEF boxes, and you would have to bring them in at the end of the week, and people
Mhm.
would put change in there. And I was always the kid that it didn't matter what, I had to put money in there. And then we would have the food drive, and I would go down, sorry, mom, if you're listening, but I would steal, canned goods and put them all in a little bag and bring them in. And I think growing up into that community was about helping other people. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
as I started going through this, I actually wanted to be, fortunately, unfortunately, I wanted to be a pediatrician. I thought that was my calling when I got into my undergraduate.
Mhm.
And I found out this really cool thing called psychology by my sophomore year and had completely changed around. There's those moments in time where you meet people in your life that are always going to be in the back of your mind no matter what. They're going to
Mhm.
help guide and inspire. And I met two professors. If there's ever such a cool thing, or a cool psychologist, I met two really cool psychologist professors, and they formed the way I believed in the science. And so as I started developing that, I thought, well, where can I take this? What can I do with it? And I found that there was a niche that ultimately was being underserved, and that was in the trauma community.
Mm.
and not trauma as in what we experience on a daily basis. I mean, you get stuck in traffic, people will say that's a traumatic experience. It's an inconvenience. But I thought more the global trauma of what happens to the people in mass shootings, what happens to the
Mm.
people in these horrible, natural disasters, what happens to the cop on the street or the firefighter involved. And so I developed that kind of, not, if it's a niche, it's a niche, but I developed that kind of understanding of what trauma was as related to those situations,
Mm.
and that's kind of how I started. Now, my efforts of giving back have never stopped from that UNICEF days. I have cooked Thanksgiving dinners for the masses. I have done food drives. I've done obviously the Hospital Heroes food drives. I do everything that I can to help because look, we got 100 years on this world, and if you're not helping, I don't know what you're doing. So
Right, right.
just my thoughts.
No, no, and we appreciate you sharing that with us. We actually have a question from one of our viewers and listeners. Do you get depressed working with the victims?
No, that's why God made alcohol. It makes it all easier. No, just that's bad. Don't listen to me with that one, kids. Um,
Yeah, right.
don't no.
Randy, you don't know Dennis the way I know Dennis. He's hilarious, by the way. I don't know. I catch
Uh,
every one of his jokes.
It's actually an excellent question. I actually find it an absolute honor to work with people. So
Mm,
I don't view it maybe as other people would view it. Maybe
mm,
and this isn't my like magical uniqueness or anything. I find it an honor to be in their lives for a little bit.
mm,
Just as a real quick story, I was down for about a month to the Pulse nightclub shooting. And the love and support that I saw after that shooting was something I had never seen before. And
mm,
I had helped a reporter down there, and the reporter had a brother that was shot in the nightclub that actually was
mm,
at one of the hospitals. And it was during one of the ceremonies, the reporter said, "Could you please go to see my brother?" And I was like, "Okay," and she gave me the background that he had actually left Cuba. He was a gay individual, had left Cuba because of harassment. His parents had kind of thrown him out and whatever, and now here he was, this victim of the shooting, a
mm,
survivor of the shooting. So when I went into the hospital, I said, "Look, I am only gonna do this, I'm only gonna speak to him is if I could speak to your mother and
mm,
you're gonna be there as well, and mom will be there." And
mm,
so that took a little bit of convincing, and then I went in to speak with him, and here he is laid up in bed, a few gunshot, wounds, and I started speaking to him, and I said, "Look, I'm here to help you, but I got
mm.
somebody else that I think is gonna help you even more." And his mother, who he hadn't seen in about 5 years, walked in.
Wow.
And he cried, she cried, the reporter cried. I got a little dust in my eyes and I was out. I had to leave for a minute.
Mhm, mhm.
I that was one of those seminal moments that I said, this is why I'm here. This
Right.
is my purpose. And so do I get depressed? Some will always stick with me. 9/11 sticks with me.
Mm.
Sandy Hook sticks with me. Pulse sticks with me. Uh, but I am so honored. I literally am honored to be in these folks' lives, even if it's for a moment.
Right, and we appreciate what you're doing
Really.
because it is so, so important, and I know that you did mention this before that, monumental situations is where you really come in and you see the need. Not just obviously every day is just as important for mental health awareness, but since COVID, the US has experienced a mental health crisis related to everything we've faced over the last 3 years. What are a few recommendations for individuals to keep themselves mentally healthy and well?
Wow, here's my next 12 hours of a dissertation with this. You
The
know,
quick version, Dennis.
the quick version is, oh my God, now there's a couple of things, and let's be
Mhm.
honest with it. We are in a mental health crisis.
Right.
Reach out. The
Mhm.
first thing is does everybody need a therapist? In our world, yes, obviously, everybody needs a therapist that pays the bills, right? But that's not the case. The case is that you need to be open and acknowledge some of those thoughts and feelings that you're having.
Mhm.
Anxiety and depression are normal, healthy feelings. We get those at times. It's actually a little early warning device that basically tells us something's wrong. So when we're
Right.
depressed, we need to talk about it. Talk about it with loved ones.
I'm going to
Go
interrupt
ahead.
real quick because I think you said something that I feel that not everyone understands. Anxiety and depression is
Oh,
normal,
normal and healthy.
normal and healthy.
Oh,
And I think a lot of people miss that
right.
because you're right. You're
Yeah.
so right about that. Please, I'm sorry. Like
No, no.
it stuck with me, and I was like, wow, no one never has
Yeah.
put it that way before. But you're
Well,
right.
it's
You're right.
again, it goes into that definition of trauma and trauma response, right?
Mm,
If you're depressed and somebody comes in there and says, "Well, I've never felt this way before," in their mind, it's a crisis, and sometimes it's very normal. You think about it, look, if you miss someone in your life, we grieve them, right? We grieve them
mhm,
very much like we would grieve the death of a loved one.
mm,
I had a patient that, his fiance is part of the military, and she had actually was stationed in Japan. And so being stationed in Japan, he's here stateside, she's in Japan, and he says, "I don't know why I'm feeling this way." And I said, "Because you're
mhm,
grieving." I said, "She's
mhm.
not close. You're not holding her, touching her. You're not
Right.
in that close proximity." He goes, "Well, but we FaceTime." And I said, "Do you kiss the screen? I mean, what do you do to have that closeness?" So
Mhm,
again, anxiety and depression, very much like anger, is very normal. The
mhm,
problem is that, and man, I hate this phrase, but I'm going to say it. We went through unprecedented times.
mm,
This is, if we look at the mental health world, COVID-19, the pandemic, was our Super Bowl.
mm,
It was that time where mental health people had to shine. And I think we did. I think we did for the most part, but there's not enough of us. So when I tell people, like, "Look, I would love to see you, but I can't see 1,000 people a week. That's not what my private practice is about." But I could tell you a couple of things. And so when I tell people a few things, I say, number one, talk.
mhm,
Acknowledge your feeling. Make sure that you tell people. We call it authentic self.
mhm.
It's that funny when you ask somebody, "How's your day?" and they go, "Fine, good," whatever. They're not really being authentic. If somebody asks me how my day is, it's kind of like asking me what time it is. I'm going to tell you how to build a watch, and then I'll tell you, how I'm feeling. But honestly, if
How's your
you,
day going, Dennis?
yeah, I just roll with it, and
Dennis, do you recommend meditation
Mm,
to
oh
your
god, yeah.
patient? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's part of
mhm,
that mantra, right?
Yeah.
So if you get up in the morning and you take 5 minutes to breathe, and that's my second point, acknowledge it, be authentic, and then take 5 minutes a day. I tell folks it's real easy to breathe and think about yourself for 5 minutes. We think about ourselves every day of the week, right? But we think in terms of almost a narrative. Like
mm,
Morgan Freeman is talking to us about our lives, right? And we forget that we have to be the voice in our heads to tell us that we're okay,
Yeah.
mhm,
and whether you have some meditative thoughts or some deep breathing, which is real simple. And I don't know if I pop myself up, I could kind of show it. If you ever question if you're breathing appropriately, take your right hand and put it on your chest, and then take your left hand and stick it on your stomach and just breathe. Breathe normally. If you notice that your left hand is raising, you're breathing normally. You're getting breath from your diaphragm. If you notice your right hand is raising, that means you're anxious. You're getting
mm,
shallow breaths. Both hands are raising, you're engorging the system, and you're probably exhausted. You're not getting enough rest at night. If neither hand's raising, you're dead, and that's just weird. So we can move on from that. So,
I'm sorry.
so
Dennis, I love that
that's a
you
bad
it's funny, right?
one.
Yeah, I was like, he always it's funny every time I talk serious with Dennis, he always makes you laugh. And
Well,
I
and
think and that's a
Yeah.
testament
Yeah.
of that you are meant to be a mental health specialist because yes, you are a good listener, but you also know how to make people laugh and smile. So it's your secret power. It really is. It really is.
I will accept that secret power and wield it well. But that's the third. Look, you start from the higher, you start in the morning, make your bed, have a mantra, be authentic in yourself throughout the day, do a
Hmm,
little meditation, simple breathing, and surround yourself with positive people.
right.
Look, in my real world, and I hate to say it, I'm very dismissive, meaning that I don't like the negatives in my life.
Right.
And it's I've had to learn lesson after lesson. I am king of
Mhm.
the second and third chances. But I've had it where if somebody is exceedingly negative, then we need to kind of get rid of them.
Mhm.
Why hang on to people that really don't enhance your life or serve you in some way? It's the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule,
Mm,
where we take 80% of our time on 20% of the people in our lives that really don't matter.
mm.
We need to flip that around a little bit. We need to make 80% of our time to, the people in our lives, to 100% of the people in our lives that absolutely matter. And you think, if is there one person in your life right now after this interview, not during, that'd be weird, but right after this interview, that you can make a phone call that immediately will make you smile, that'll immediately make you feel good with it. That they have a little
Mhm.
joke or they have a little story or whatever. And if you have that person in your life, make sure you cultivate that relationship versus the one upper that if you give them a call to tell them that you have a headache, they're telling you that they have a brain tumor and
Mm.
you're already at that negative point with somebody. So make
Yes.
sure those people that you have are pretty positive in your life.
Right, right, right. Randy, did you have a question? I
Yeah,
know that
yeah.
you had one.
I had a stroke when I was 52 years old, and I was really healthy. And what helped me, I started reading Buddhist books,
Sure.
and living in the now really helped me
Mhm.
over everything.
Mhm.
If you live in the past, you're repeating old habits, and if
Right.
you're anxious and living in the future,
Yeah.
now is the only time to live. So I really believe that
Mm.
to be important in mental health.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Well,
no,
that's all we have. We have today, and why not make the most of today? I don't know what tomorrow is gonna bring for me,
right.
and Ray, God bless you for it. I had, not kindred spirits, I guess, but, during COVID, I ended up having an aortic valve replacement surgery.
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
So went through that life-changing experience, and, you come out of it and you think to yourself,
Mm.
What can I do? Like, I've lived this life of service and I've lived this life that I think I've done very well. But man, you know what? I could probably do more on a daily basis to make sure that the people in my life know that I love them, that I know that I love myself, and that I am doing everything I can for my patients and for everybody around me that they're going to be okay that day. And I
Right.
agree 100%. We have today. That's it. We got 24 hours.
So, Dennis, we just had another question pop up and it's actually a very, very important question about social media and cell phones. Do you feel, and I know the answer, but do you feel the mental health specialist that they play a significant role in depression?
Oh my gosh. Short answer, yes.
Mm.
Long answer, let's get back to smoke signals because that might be a better option at this point. Look,
Mhm.
why do we get stressed out? You think about it. It's we're all based in that FOMO, that fear of missing out. We're
Yes.
based in
Mhm.
I've said, and I don't, I won't use nasty words or anything, but social media is either about bragging or it's about complaining.
Mm.
It's either you brag about this life that's not really your life, or you're complaining about your life that's not really your life.
Right.
So
It's a highlight reel.
yeah, we're constantly living in hyperbole. I
Mhm.
watched kind of funny story. I had taken my kids to a restaurant up in Philadelphia, and we went into the restaurant, and literally it was us and this other table, and it was two girls at the other table, and they were taking pictures like crazy. I mean, just made the up shots and down shots, and they're all over the place. They're taking all these pictures in front of the bar. There is literally no one in here except for me, my two kids at the time, and these two young ladies. And so my daughter found out their IG account, this
Mhm.
Instagram account,
Mhm. Mhm.
and she kind of looked up real quick with it, and she goes, "Oh my god!" And I said, "What?" She goes, "Were we just at a party?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And when I looked at that Instagram account, you would have thought we were at this wonderful movie premiere at this amazing restaurant. And I was like, the salad was cool. I really don't know. And so if we're living in a life of hyperbole, I think it depresses the hell out of people because they ultimately
Mhm.
want that life.
Yeah.
And then also you think about, and not for whatever it's worth, we're all responsible for what we do, but then we all start kind of believing that that's the way we should. And if you ever question
Mm,
that, think about the challenges. How
right.
many people in their right mind would pick up a Carolina Reaper pepper and throw it in their mouth, outside of my daughter, would throw it in their mouth and eat the whole thing if it wasn't a challenge that people were taking pictures of to make you look like you're something that you're not.
Hmm.
So, it's I think depression and stress come greatly from social media. Plus, we've become an unobservant society. If you sit around, we went out, and I don't know if he's listening, but my son's 25th birthday lunch, we went out, and I watched the table behind us, and it was a table of 10 people. Every single person was on their phone. And
Mm,
we were sitting around there, my wife, the 3 kids, we were sitting around joking and we were having fun and we were ripping on each other and we were doing everything that we can. The table over there, the 10 people were dead silent looking at their phone. And I thought, isn't that a missed
Yeah.
opportunity for human connection? And what are you doing?
mm,
So I go back to that listener, John, I think his name is John. Yeah, absolutely 100%. I think there is stress and depression that's based in it and severe anxiety, not just
mhm.
little like anxiety, severe anxiety based in social media and cell phones, you
Wow.
know?
So, and I agree. I totally agree. I always say that you don't believe everything you see on social media, and if you need to take a break from social media to protect your mental health,
Yeah.
do it and do it often. I actually did it yesterday. I tried to do it once a day, or excuse me, once a week, where I actually purposely don't even pick up my phone. I
Right.
know if I'm with my family or I'm spending the day with my family, I will try my best to leave my phone in my bag and not constantly look at it because just the motion of picking it up and looking at it, picking up and checking it, picking up and checking it, that's already stressful as is because okay, I can't miss anything. I can't miss anything. And that is overwhelming sometimes. So it's very, very important to take a break or just press the pause button. And I think it's healthy.
Yeah.
Well, do yourself, if you want to prove a point of stress and depression,
Hmm.
do this to yourself or do this to the people that follow you, whether you have 2 followers or 200,000 followers. This is a little, here you go. Here's the shrink. Because if you follow me on social media, especially my private stuff, I mess with people all the time. That's what we do, right? That's being a shrink. We mess with people. So I say, right now, all you do, and literally do nothing else, put Biden in a post. Nothing else, just Biden.
Mm,
Wait an hour and then put Trump. And that's all you do. Don't comment on it, don't do anything else. The hatred on both of the commentary that's going to come up, it will be amazing. The triggering effects that just
mm,
words have right now on social media. I,
mhm,
I would love to get like a heart monitor on some of these folks that lose their minds on social
mm,
media because of these triggering effects. And why do it to yourself? Don't. I agree with you. Take a little bit of a break. Walk away from the screen a little bit. Oh,
mhm.
here's something funny. Go outside. There's that big
Wow.
gaseous ball of fire in the air that you need a little vitamin D every now and then, you know?
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so, so, so true. Go outside.
Right.
Yeah,
You're right. Get some fresh air. So I have to touch on this because I looked at the time and I knew that we were gonna get through this whole session. But I want to make sure that we touched on hospital heroes because
sure.
you supplied over 41,000 meals to hospital
Wow.
workers through the Hospital Heroes Food Drive, which is incredible. And thank you so
Ab
much, Dennis, and
Yes.
to your volunteers for
Thank you.
doing that and supporting our healthcare workers and our first responders. I know that this is near and dear to you.
Oh, absolutely.
So thank you for doing something that is so so needed. So could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think it's really really important, and even share with our listeners and viewers information about it. How can they donate? How can they volunteer? How can they be a part of it and participate?
Sure. We did this out of necessity to start during COVID, and our partners, which we have about 100 restaurant partners that that are
Wow.
in New York all the way down to Virginia. When we started this, and I asked her to listen because I love telling the story. it started with my wife, then at the time girlfriend. So I was trying to really impress her by starting an entire program based on her. You start a program, she has to say yes when you get engaged. That's the way it is, right? So Laura was a nurse at Jefferson and Jefferson Hospital in downtown Philly, which was the epicenter around here for COVID and had the most deaths and most problems. And I had asked her, if she had eaten that day, and she said, no, the cafeterias are closed and this and that and so forth. And that wasn't in my little Italian mind, food is love. And I said, no, no,
Mhm.
no, we're not having that. So I went down. A friend of mine owns Lucha Cartel, and I called him and I said, "Do you have? I know you're closing, but do you have any food?" And he had 150 burritos. So we gathered up 150 burritos because they were quick and easy to eat, and we brought them to Jefferson for the hospital staff. And that was the moment I said, "We got to do this."
A
And
light
so
bulb
we started. Yeah, it was. It,
what
it
went
went.
on.
Are
It
burritos
went nuts.
Italian?
What's that?
A burrito's Italian?
Well, this one had a little bit of oregano in it, so I
So
thought
that made it
maybe
Italian.
just maybe.
Italian inspired.
So so we started with that, and we started getting the donations, and it was a need because everything was closed, and there
Mhm.
were very few folks in the restaurant industry that were staying open. But some of our partners, we said, look, we're going to get money for you. We want you to stay open, prepare this meal so we can give you money, and then we want to give it to the hospitals. And the money started coming in, the restaurant partners coming in. There were some that was just that blew me out of the water. We had Kentucky Fried Chicken, we had KFC call and said, "Hey, we have 1,000 chicken meals. Do you have hospitals where this could go?"
Wow.
I said, "Absolutely." Now, as a vegetarian, my car smelled like fried chicken for it was torture. It was, but the reality is that we continued to do that throughout, and then
Mhm.
it moved from a need to now appreciation. So the
Mhm.
meals that we give right now are more appreciative. Somewhere along the line during, I think it was the summer of the riots, healthcare turned from our heroes to now the villains again. Like, you're
Mhm.
not doing enough for us. And again, I could go on a dissertation with that about why that happened, but it happened. So now we see nurses and docs, and like I said, my practice is primarily for them. We see nurses and docs that are trauma ridden, that they're exhausted, they're tired, but they've done an amazing job.
Mhm.
So we just did one right up at Crozier, where we went in, over 100 meals, and from one of our favorite restaurant partners, we went in and delivered meal to this trauma symposium that they talked about the pandemic and so forth. So this is all still fresh. You just go to hospitalheroesfooddrive.org.
Mhm.
You can go to the Trauma Survivors Foundation.org, and go in there, and we actually have a link for you to donate a meal, donate a shift of meals, just donate your time. But it's all in there, and we've maintained it again now just strictly for appreciation.
Right. And again, thank you, Dennis, for doing that. But really, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura, for
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
inspiring Dennis to come up with this idea. So we're going to give credit where it's due. Okay, Dennis. Shout out to Laura. We love
Yeah,
her.
she's
Okay, so I really want to shift gears real quick because I know we only have a few more minutes left. So let's talk about November 5th. This is big. I really want to go to this event. And Randy, you should try to go too. This is
yeah.
going to be huge. So tell us all about the black tie and sneakers masquerade.
Well, this is my absolute favorite event. We're involved in so many different events, but the black tie and sneakers is my little baby. This
Mhm.
was one that we brought it to Delaware, thinking we were going to do something kind of formal, but with a fun little twist to it with the sneakers. And then, as of 2019, our last one, right before the pandemic, we had it at the Queen, and the Queen in downtown Wilmington.
Mhm,
So it was
mhm.
big, and it was this ball, and my thought is it's got to get bigger. It's got to get even better.
Sounds like
So
you, Dennis.
yeah, you just got to add layers, right?
Right,
So
right.
we decided we're going to move it to Philadelphia. So on November 5th, we're going to be at Live Casino Hotel in Philadelphia. And then we started adding even more layers to this. This one, I tell you is going to be one of those for the record books. Just from our live acts. So we have 2 live acts. I did want to bring Delaware up to Philadelphia. So our main headlining act is Kristen and the Noise. If you haven't
Awesome.
heard Kristen and the Noise, you've been living
Mhm.
under a rock for the past,
They're
10 years,
awesome.
So, but we also have a really cool band that's going to be there, a 7-piece uh, uh, brass band called Snack Time Philly. Snack
Mm.
Time developed during the pandemic, where they would go to the different neighborhoods in Philadelphia and would play music, their trumpets and trombones and tubas and so forth. But they got notoriety, so they've opened up for the Philadelphia 76ers. They've been on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and we got them. So they're going to be there playing for the
Awesome.
cocktail hour. Now that's one layer. The second layer to it, which is even more amazing, is that we have 12 chefs that are going to be cooking the meals. Now,
Wow.
you say 12 chefs, who cares? Well, we do, because we have James Beard nominated award-winning chefs. We have a fellow from the James Beard Foundation that are starting. Angie Branca from Kempar Kitchen is the one that's coordinating all this. We
Mm.
have Mike from Mike's Barbecue, one of the most popular barbecue spots up there. I mean, we have people that are going to knock you out of this world with food, and it's going to be the whole concept of coming in and eating. We're also bringing Delaware up there again. We got Chef Jeremiah from Hamilton's on Main. He's coming up. So
Mhm.
we have that. Now another level added to that. We have 12, not only just chefs, but we have 12 distilleries, breweries, and wineries that are going to be associated there, like Dad's Hat Rye, Resurgent Whiskey, Kiki Vodka. They're all going to be there giving away all their drinks and all that. So we have that. And we have this other wild thing that we obviously, as a foundation, we support the Miss Teen Delaware USA and the Miss Delaware USA Association. But I got a phone call, and this is one that we just started advertising. I got a phone call from Megan Myers, who is Mrs. Maryland USA, and
Hmm.
Megan said, "Hey, is this a tri-state type of event?" And I said, "This is Philadelphia, baby. This is whatever you want it to be."
Right. Welcome all.
So just to tell you this, and I throw this out because we're still waiting on one person that we know very well to make her decision to be there. But we have 10. Can I say queens, or can I say pageant winners?
Title holders.
The holders, even better. We have 10 title holders from New York, Maryland, Delaware, and
Wow.
Pennsylvania
Wow.
that are going to be at the black tie event.
So
So
awesome. That makes me so
I
happy.
it is I when I got that phone call, Megan is just amazing. As Mrs. Maryland USA, she's a mother of 7.
Oh,
I you know,
wow.
I don't know how the hell she does it, but it's pretty wild. She's gonna be there. And so we keep adding all these really cool little events. And we have Bungie brand sneakers as one of our sponsors. Bungie is now going to be, his sneakers are in Neiman Marcus. He's
Mm.
one of the premier sneaker players. His backstory is amazing. All of our chefs were affected by COVID somehow. So
Mhm.
this is going to be a celebration. You get all of this. And I almost
And
sound
it's
like the guy from OxyClean. You get all of this, but wait, there's more.
there's more.
You get this in Philadelphia, but look, you can rent a room up there, you can do whatever you want, and we made it a masquerade ball.
Right.
So we want it to be sexy, fun, happy. We want it to
Comfortable
be a celebration and comfortable,
and
truly
comfortable.
comfortable.
Yeah,
So make
it's
Sounds
awesome.
sure,
good.
you get to blacktiesneakersgala.com. Like I said, this is my favorite. I absolutely adore the Black Tie Sneakers Gala now with the masquerade. Let's get it, because
Oh,
it's going to
yeah.
be a great
It's gonna
time.
be the party of the year for
Yeah.
sure. Party of the year for sure. And Randy, I
Yeah.
definitely suggest that you mark your calendar, and
Yeah.
anybody
Sounds
listening,
great.
definitely mark your calendar because I know Dennis knows how to throw a party.
Well, and I'm going to give this to anybody that's listening right now. Give me 30 minutes and it'll be live. But we're going to offer all your listeners and watchers a little promo code.
Oh,
So,
yes.
let's make it kitschy. Let's
Thank
go
you.
to the promo code Pronto is going to give you a savings
I love
off
that.
of the black tie and sneakers. Look, it's only
Thank you.
$150 for all of that, which is a crazy price for it.
Mhm.
But we're going to give you a little bit of savings. If you're listening to the show and you heard me, go to our site, get your tickets, and type in Pronto. and you'll get a little bit of savings for it.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. That's awesome. So don't miss out. There's the promo
Yes,
code
it
right on
is.
the screen, Pronto.
Wow.
So just make sure that you type that in to get that discounted rate. Dennis, I know that we're winding down this interview, and I knew that we were going to be just fine chatting with you because we can talk for hours. But I do have our final and traditional question that we ask all of our guests on our show. So I hope you're ready.
Oh,
If you could chat with anyone from the past or present on a podcast, who
ooh.
would it be and why?
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, can I do two, but real quick with it?
Absolutely.
First one passed, Sigmund Freud. Everybody believed, the
Mhm.
father of modern day psychology was an absolute nut job with a cocaine problem. But in all truth, his background, he started what we now know as hysteria, which he started with women in Vienna that were being abused by their husbands. The Viennese government actually made him destroy all of his papers because they wanted to continue this open abuse of women. So Freud had started this movement against domestic violence and sexual assault and so forth. I would love to get down and just talk, literally talk the scary head of his and
Mhm.
figure stuff out. And then for it, I would like to do a panel on a podcast, and the panel would be my mentors. And they're
Mm.
all living, they're all, just shaking their heads at me every day of the week. But
Maybe listening in
I I hope they
this
are. You know,
podcast.
but I would love to sit down with all of them and say, one, thank them, but
Mm.
also kind of see what they think of where we're all going in the world in mental health wise.
Very nice.
Do a
Very
shout
nice.
out for them.
Oh God, Al Meyer, God, he a crazy man he is. Dr. Portia Hunt, oh my God, they were the people that literally kind of shaped who I am.
Mhm.
If I could say anything, they were the ones that told me to go with what I wanted to do. Dr. Christina Fieser, Dr. Pat Krantz. If I could sit them down, I've thanked them individually over the years, but truthfully, just to say, what do you think has happened in the past 26 years? Most of them would try to commit me, I think, but the idea is that that would be fun for me. That would be fun.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, Dennis, we are at the end, but I do want to reiterate some of your social media handles because I want everyone to connect with you, follow, because you just never know, who you will inspire, but also maybe someone is truly in need of a mental health specialist. And we're able to provide resources and education here on Pronto's podcast. So would you share with all of our viewers ways they can connect with you, touch base with you, and definitely share Hospital Heroes, Trauma Survivors again as well?
Sure, sure. Go to everything starts with our websites, and you can get everything off of them. But the mother is the Trauma Survivors Foundation.org or .com because we were just indecisive. Then you can go to the Hospital Heroes Food Drive.org. You can go to my practice, newperspectivesinc.com, or just go to me, DennisCarradin.com. And if you go to DennisCarradin.com, it links you back to everything else. We're on all social media platforms. So just look for us and go to blacktiesneakersgala.com. Get your tickets using promo code Pronto.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. Dennis, thank you again. It was a
Thank you, Dennis.
pleasure. Pleasure.
Thank
And
you so much. Thank you.
we will see you soon. And maybe, well, I know I'll see you sooner, but we'll maybe see him at the Black Tie and
Yeah.
Sneaker Gala. So that was another great show.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
love always being informed. I love being educated, but I'm a firm believer in mental health awareness. I really, really am. I always say this to everyone in my circle: protect your peace, protect your joy. And it starts from you first, advocating for that yourself, and then making sure you're protecting your world and making sure making sure you're taking care of your mental
Yeah.
health. So, I wanted to share one more thing before we close out the show that I didn't get to touch on. Dennis is actually also a sponsor for the Miss Delaware USA, Miss Delaware Teen USA organization through the Trauma Survivors Foundation. When I became the executive state director, the first thing I thought about was, I need to make sure that my title holders and my contestants have resources for mental health,
Right.
because I felt that we live in a different day and age where through social media, we feel that we have to look and act and think a certain way. And I felt it was extremely imperative that I was able to provide not only my title holders, but my contestants resources and education. And I was able to partner with Dennis through the Trauma Survivors Foundation and custom create mental health videos and educational resources
Oh, wow.
for my contestants and title holders only. Dennis was able to partner with me and create these videos and information and resources specifically for them and everything that they're doing. So Dennis,
Yeah.
thank you for everything that
That's
you're doing
incredible.
in the community, in the area, actually all around the world, because you're touching everyone's lives. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis.
All
Do
right.
you sleep?
No.
I know.
No, we don't sleep, right? We keep going. All right. Well, that is it. We're at the end, but make sure you stay tuned for our next episode. We will have our next episode coming soon. So just stay tuned. You can follow on Curry Hair, Skin and Nails Instagram page, my Instagram page, which is at Cenza, Cenza, or at Randy Curry. And you can follow us when our next episode of Pronto will be. So make sure you tune in soon. All right.
Thank you.
Pronto, Randy.
Thank you. Pronto, Vincenza.